Lott Jr. That's who I am. And this is what happens when you when you do a lot of stuff. And I'm James Lott Jr. here on JLJ Media, which is my online network. So this book, the reason why I got a little confused because I have a show about grandparents, but I chose to put it on this podcast, folks, because I want everyone to see this. But also it's about grandmothers. So it's this beautiful book called The Story of Grandma, really right there. Question and answer guide. It's one of those journal books you may see out there. They have them everywhere, of course. And so this person already wrote one for mom. Let me you her. So my guest was a newspaper reporter for many years before transitioning to freelance writing and editing. She is the mother of one daughter, Tess, and the author of the first book, of course, The Story of Mom. And now she has this book, The Story of Grandma. She's coming to you from the East Coast. I love the East Coast. And she's in Massachusetts. Vanessa Parks. Hi, Miss Vanessa.
Hello there, Mr. James. Thanks for having me.
This book is I just love looking at it and touching it. It's so pretty. I do. I keep showing it. I keep showing. Get it. It's good. I've always been curious about these kind of books because I was telling you off mic that I've gotten a few books over the years. Like one was like the 5-year journal or this kind of thing. There are always little books here and there, but this one is specifically aimed at someone in your family that is like a legacy person, which a grandmother. Grandmothers are always, so a lot of times the nucleus of a family, the matriarch of a family, the matron of the family. But you did mom too, which again, another center nucleus of the family. First of all, where did you get the idea to actually create these journal books?
Well, I have to say there's not a great story there, unfortunately. I was actually approached. A woman that I used to work with is now an acquisitions editor for Adams Media, which is part of a very small part of Simon and Schuster.
Yeah.
And they had previously done a man wrote the book for his dad, and they wanted another version of it, but they thought it would be better to have a woman do it. So they actually asked a few of us to submit proposals, and I won. So The Story of Mom came out during COVID. Unfortunately, it originally was supposed to be an end cap in Target for Mother's Day, and that didn't work out because the shipping was delayed. But
yeah.
The Story of Grandma is the follow-up book, and there's some overlap in the two books, and they're definitely structured very much the same way. But I found The Story of Grandma a lot more fun to do, actually.
Well, why is that? Why do you say that?
My grandmother lived with us when we were growing up, as did my grandfather, but he died when I was probably 4, maybe, I think. And I don't really remember him, whereas my grandmother died when I was about 18. And I was just so close. That one grandmother on my mother's side, I didn't really know my grandmother on the other side. And I just loved her, it's just such a special relationship and all of that. And I actually, for both books, asked people, what would you want to ask your mom or your grandmother, looking for good questions, but also for sort of themes. And so for the grandmother book, I specifically asked kids that still had grandchildren or grandparents, that were alive or in a few cases had just recently passed. So mostly I asked kids in their 20s-ish. And listening to your podcast, though, it occurred to me, I wish I had asked some grandparents what they would like their grandchildren to ask them.
How funny. So folks, I have a podcast called Really I'm a Grandparent. So let's make sense. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just thought it would have been a great to get the perspective of grandparents, what they would want their grandchildren to know about.
I was gonna say, that's what it is. It's like, okay, so you did the smart thing by talking to the grandkids going, what would you want to know? But yes, the other side of it is, what would you want to leave behind?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what it is, right? That's what it is. Like, what would you like them to specifically know about you or how you lived or where you came from?
Yeah.
I think, but this book is still good though, because there's questions aimed at you actually ask, getting there, right? So I was going to, some of the chapters are quick questions about grandma's background, favorite things, shared roots, grandma's ancestry and childhood, romance and other new experiences. That'd be interesting. what makes grandma grandma? I thought that's a very interesting one too. I told folks I have notes. I'm asking those. Pregnancy, motherhood, and family life. Fun and frivolous music. So I think it's kind of fun to show the silly side.
Yes.
School, work, life lessons. Things she'd change and things she wouldn't. Now that would be interesting to hear that. And looking back, looking ahead, and final thoughts. There's a section for a photo album. And I feel like these cover everything. It covers the whole life of a person.
It does.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it does.
And we actually left pages at the back for thoughts on going through the book. And also one of the questions toward the end is, that sort of classic asking grandma, was there something you wished I asked you that you didn't? And also allowing her to ask you a question that she'd be really curious about that she's never asked you.
I noticed towards the end of the book too, I thought it was right. This is my notes, very interesting. A lot of questions about death.
Yes. So not really thinking of younger grandparents, I guess. But I think it is and I do think people's views of death definitely change as they get older and closer to it. So I think some of them are like, are you afraid to die? What do you think happens after you die? And for where the book sort of progresses chronologically, I think it made sense to put that in there. And also for some people, that's such an uncomfortable topic. This was a good chance for them to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah, because one of the other questions you have that I like towards the end, but I'm glad it's towards the end. What would you like to ask me? So there's something you have for grandparents. Go, okay, what would you like to ask me? And then I'll answer it.
Right. What do you know if you had asked one of your grandkids a question, what it might be? It would probably depend on which grandchild, right?
Yes, because I have three. One's a baby. It's not four, but one's a baby. So I have three that can actually are cognizant enough, old enough to be able to ask me questions. I mean, that's what I guess me think like which now if I look at this book, the grandchild I think who would actually want to do this is my granddaughter. I only have one granddaughter. My older grandson, maybe him too. But I think my granddaughter for sure is the most like me, who asks questions about family. I think it might be her. So she might be the one to say, Papa Jamie, I want to ask you a question. Or I mean, I want to do this, or can you, or what do you want to ask me? I think it'd be her probably right now, but that could change another year or two. Could be the other one. Who knows? But I think
and why not do it with different grandchildren? Have some do one chapter, some do another, and one of actually that first chapter, the really quick things like what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color. There is a how-to section, and honestly, when the editors first suggested that, I thought really, but there's some tips on interviewing and letting people think about the answer and all of that, but to just go through a couple of those fast questions, like don't do that whole chapter at once, do a few of those at the beginning of every session, and then and to break the ice, and then jump into one of the chapters. And I do think that that it might be nice to do it with a couple of the grandchildren, even at once, and or also maybe if one grandchild was doing it, another grandchild might say, hey, I want to do that too. So
I like, so you asked name your parents, grandparents, and great grandparents. Wow, that's kind of funny. You had an ethnic background, which I like that. What are your children's names, grandchildren's names? There's another one I had in here too. Oh yes, you have a section on how to describe their parents. So I think it'd be very interesting when I saw that. I go, because grandparents are two generations removed from their grandchildren. So I don't know if you heard me say this on my other show. I tell fellow grandparents, it's hard to watch your children parent. I always say that. At times it can be because you raise them a certain way. They're raising them, now you watch them raise them a certain way. That may not be the same way you did or how you were raised. So in the book I go, I say asking the grandparents the chances are we don't know them. Like I said, I knew my great grandparents, but luckily maybe you don't. You have to find
Right.
out where grandma came from.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly.
I
I just about a week ago I actually don't have any grandchildren. I have one daughter, and she just recently gave me a grandpup. She
Yeah,
got
my grandpuppies, they're cute. We like them.
yeah. But my sister-in-law, who's has 4 children and about seven grandchildren now,
Wow.
was watching 2 of her grandchildren for the weekend. They were visiting from California. And I went to help her out one night, and she said, "Look at these directions. Everything's so complicated, how they sleep and all they eat. And I'm so nervous." I said, "Don't be nervous. You raised 4 kids." And she said, "Well, I'm not paying attention to any of this anyway. They're going to do whatever they want. The only thing I'll have them do is go to bed on time. That's it." So I'm sorry. That is my dog.
I love it. It's cute. I always laugh because when my older daughter had three grandkids first. My younger daughter got married during COVID and got pregnant, and my grandson, who's 9 months. So when I went to meet him for the first time, I was laughing because the father was like, "Gotta hold him this way." I go, "I held your wife. I raised your wife, the baby." I mean, like, I know, but it was cute for me. I thought it was very cute because it's her first child and being so diligent. At least not being the opposite. But I had to laugh and go, I'd remind you, I've held so many babies. I raised your wife. I held her as a man. I raised you. So it was kind of cute. I was like, by choice, I held your wife at this age. I know, she's alive, somehow. So I think it's just kind of fun. But the grandparent thing for me is very fascinating. I was close to my grandparents, each of them, and so I don't have any left. They're all passed. So I don't. So for me, it's really tough because I loved grandparents. They were so different from my parents and from my aunts and uncles, and it was fun. It was interesting to watch my parents react to their parents.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So they seem much more open to talking. They want to. That's why this book is so good, because a lot of times they want to tell you. They want somebody to listen. They want to tell their story. The kids don't ask. When you're a kid and you're a parent, you're busy being a kid and getting your nerves. But when you're a grandkid, you're just visiting with them. They're fun. They want to tell you.
Right. Exactly. I didn't have the opportunity to do this with my grandmother, and even by the time, even though I loved her and I was so close to her when I was 18, by the time she passed, had never really occurred to me to ask her that much about her childhood, or even coming to this country alone at 19. Would I love to know that story, and leaving, her 9 siblings behind. And it's crazy. And things like that I wish so much that I did know. And the other thing is, if memory starts to go too. So even if you don't lose them, if they haven't actually passed away, little parts of them can be slipping away all the time, even without dementia.
Yes, right.
Dementia.
Girl, I forget things all the time. Oh, I'm like, when did I have breakfast yesterday? I have no idea. I know I did 30 years ago, but breakfast yesterday, I couldn't tell you. So I mean,
right. Right.
That's how that happens. No, I wish I had this book when I was growing up, because I did get interested in high school. I got very interested in my family all of a sudden. I wanted to know about the history. And I have paper back when, folks, this is back in the stone tablet age. I had papers, I wrote stuff. I have those papers and stuff. I probably could transfer into this book.
You really could, yeah.
I kept them. Well, that's a good question. So people could possibly do that. If you have journals or writings, I guess you could find the question and see where it goes. Well, I didn't know about that until just now.
On the story of Mom, a friend of mine and her 2 sisters, their mom died probably 10 years ago, and their mother was just a character. She was just a hot ticket. And they decided to get together, the 3 of them, and try to guess how their mother would answer the questions, which I thought was wild.
Yeah.
But they had so wished that they could have done it with their mom. And they're all 3 mothers. They could have tried to do it with one of their kids. But I thought, that's kind of interesting.
That is.
Yeah, I thought it was, and I don't know how far they ever got with that, but also on the whole idea of writing as you've seen, there are a lot of blank pictures in the book. It is meant to be a journal, but I think so you can write the answers as they're speaking, but it probably does make sense to definitely to tape record, or an old-fashioned term, I guess, record.
Girl, I understand. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yes, record. Just say record.
Yes. And then and maybe transcribe later. But the reason we thought it seems like such a quaint notion to write in the book, but what a great thing for future generations to have, to actually see the handwriting, which if anybody can read cursive, then, you know.
I know. I was like, ask my grandkids, you guys do cursive in school? No, I'm like, don't. It's so weird
Yeah,
to me. Oh my
it
goodness.
is so weird.
It's
But,
so
you
weird.
know, supposedly they're having a problem even now with college age kids not being able to help professors transcribe historical documents. So cursive is supposedly making a comeback.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I think it should. I just
It
think
should. I agree.
it's great. I think it's cool. I like looking at different people's handwriting and stuff
I
like
know. Same here. Your handwriting tells you a lot about yourself usually. That's how it was usually. Your handwriting tells you about yourself a little bit.
that. Yeah,
I'm left-handed, so I always have the whole
I
left-handed thing.
am too.
Oh my God, yay! That's
Yeah, a
right.
lefty smudge.
Yes, exactly. I have a left-handed podcast also called Left-Handed, a lot to say. I talk to left-handed people about being left-handed.
Oh, no kidding. I will definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, maybe you have to come on. It's about being left-handed. So I'll keep that in mind too. So like Vanessa, all right, is a lefty. I just wrote that down. It's a lefty. That sounds funny.
You know, every newsroom that I've ever worked in has been crazy number of left-handed people.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's that whole right brain, left brain thing. More
Save
than
that. Save. I think I want to have you. I think I want to have you on my left-handed show. We'll talk about that.
okay,
That's
okay.
that's a very interesting angle that I've never heard of before.
Oh yeah.
I was almost a reporter. So years ago, I went to school. Almost in my past life, almost did that for Sacramento Union.
Well, it's
Back
my
then.
past life too, since like newspapers are practically a thing of the past. You
I know.
know?
I said, well, I know how to type on a typewriter, folks. That's how I learned how to type on a
Yeah.
typewriter, not electric, a regular typewriter.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Then it came later. Then it came later.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I just thought about that, going, wow, if you have materials or writings from them, this could be an interesting way of trying to link up and sync up what they're saying to a question. It might
Yeah.
apply to it. You can fill it in there, and you have, well, this is from their words. You know, this is what they
Right.
said,
Exactly.
and it kind of
Exactly.
fits this. So this could be a good little research tool. I think in the age nowadays of cell phones and tablets and stuff, we need old-fashioned stuff passed down.
Yes. For
Generations.
sure. For sure. I agree. And the other thing is nobody ever prints their photos out anymore.
No.
You know, and I do that, and my nieces and nephews love to come and see all the family photos, and you know, they say, "Oh, that's so nice that you do that." It's not that hard, guys.
It sure isn't. It sure isn't.
Yeah.
But this old-fashioned way, old school, they would say, I think is not so bad. But I'm seeing a lot of these kind of books that are out there now that people are looking for connection. I think because we've gotten so spread out, we've gotten so outward that
Yes.
and you know, we are living longer. I mean, so there is a lot of, you know, a lot of grandmas are still alive and are
Yes.
sound mind.
Mhm.
And you could actually ask them now if you want to
Right.
know,
You know,
because
and the other thing is that, you know, Ancestry has gotten so
yes,
popular, Ancestry.com, and the
yes,
whole genealogy thing, but that is really pretty one-dimensional.
yeah,
You know, I do laugh when I see the commercials because there's one now where people are walking through a hall with giant photographs of their ancestors. How does that happen? I've been on Ancestry off and on for 10 years, and that, you know, now I've never seen anything like that, or, you know, oh, you know, you're so and so live next to some famous person,
right.
you know, nothing like that. But I think that, and that is cool to find out somebody's name or how many kids they had and what age they lived and died.
Yeah,
But it's nothing like having the story of grandma. It's nothing like having, you know, what was her childhood like in her words? You know, what kind of games did she play? What kind of candy did she eat?
right.
You know, um, what was school like? What was her first love? How has dating changed? You know, all so much. And
Also, you know, also Vanessa, what's a great thing is comparison. We always say, "Oh my God, I wonder where she gets that from. I wonder where so and so gets that from."
yeah.
The answers could be in here.
Yes. Yeah, you know, I think we do, and I do in one of the chapters ask which one of your children it reminds you most of yourself. And also or definitely in the mom book, maybe not in the grandmother book, but ask what traits they don't like in themselves and then what they traits they do like, of course. But in the mom book, we ask do you ever see that trait reflected in your kids, and how does that make you feel?
Of course. Well, I remember,
Because we've all had those cringe moments.
yes, we have. I can't remember this book or not. Is there a section where you ask the grandmas about their kids?
Yes.
As I
Yeah.
thought. I saw the
Yeah.
one where they asked about their parents and stuff, and their friends were
Yeah.
like, is this
Yeah.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Probably guessing, obviously, in the motherhood chapter, but I think tell me something about my parent that I don't know.
Okay.
Or and which one of your kids was most rebellious, which was most obedient, or
Yes. Yeah. I know that. And also you have questions about how many siblings did you have. So that's another thing. All our grand uncles and grand aunts and all of them, and like just like it's a whole other world when you start going back several generations.
Yes.
Even for younger grandparents, we're still 2 generations behind them. So
Yeah.
we still,
Yeah.
I grew up with no computers and stuff. So I mean, I was here with the advent of the computer. I remember, having to wear, having to apply time clocks, actual punching in time, and like there were things, rotary phones, that kind of, it's still far enough.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, to think of how much the world has changed from the time we were kids until now,
I know.
it's almost mind blowing to think how much it will have changed by the time our grandkids are our age.
I know.
What will it be? But that's another thing. It will be so great for them to have these stories in your words, in my words, in their grandparents' words.
Well, I said I have a few things with my grandmother's. I may actually do the sync it in, see if I have anything that's literally I can answer and fill it out. So
Because one of the suggestions we say is don't just put this book away once you're done with it. Like pull it out on her birthday or on Christmas or Thanksgiving, whatever, and just read a couple of pages and let it sort of be a living document. And I think, you could put it in a box with all these other family treasures, with other writing and so forth. I'm just thinking, I don't think I have anything in my grandmother's writing, even though she lived with us, and my mother never threw anything away. So it's kind of miraculous that we don't have anything.
That's interesting. So I have a few things. I have a few things of hers that are not in writing, but I have a few things that there was letters that I wrote to her. I have a couple of hers back to me.
Oh yeah.
A couple, not a lot, but a couple.
Yeah.
They were talking the 70s when it happened, so like a long time ago. So I have a few things, and that's the thing. It's like after a while, all the moves you do, and you lose things and stuff happen. But I have a few things of her. I have a few things of hers. But this book is great. So, folks, it's the story of Grandma. That's what it is. It's kind of a question and answer guide. Grandma's life lessons and legacy. Vanessa Parks, thank you so much for being on the show. You're delightful.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
Perfect. And I'm James Lott Jr. Books are important. Read books. I love books. The art of books. Art is important. Reading is important. Documenting history, I think, is a great idea too. Also good for you too. So something for you to learn some stuff. Maybe there's stuff you may not even know about yourself or your family, and you can learn about it too. And also, a lot of people, when they get older, do want to tell their story, and they want people to listen to them. And as a good bonding experience, you can do with your grandmother. And I think there's so many wins to this that I don't know a non-win. It's just that they're all wins. So please support that. Get us wherever books are sold. Thank you, Simon & Schuster, for putting this together. Again, great book. Adams Media, great book. I just love the way it looks. And I'm James Lott Jr. And we will see you next time. Have a great holiday season.